So I was headed to a horse show in Amarillo with my pickup truck, and it was 106 degrees and 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had loaded the back of the truck up with tons of water and an ice cooler, thinking I was going to water cowboys all day long at the horse show. As I was driving past Tulia, about 16 miles north of it, I look off to the side of the road, and there's this brand shiny new little bicycle standing on the side of the road in kind of a truck pullover spot, and on its kickstand, and down beside it is a pile of rags with some odd-shaped shoes sticking out from underneath it. And I get back down there, and this pile of rags is probably a body, and I'm staring down at it, and there's a piece of skin, an arm sticking out and a neck sticking out, and they're bright red sunburned, and I'm thinking, this person has got to be dead. They're laying on the asphalt. So I go to the back of the truck and I climb up in there and I grab a couple of bottles of water and I come back and I said, hey sir, hey buddy, wake up, and nothing happens. So I poured some water on his arm and his neck and nothing happened again. I said, hey, wake up, and he finally he pulled his black hoodie up over his head and he just started morphing up, and I kind of back up a little bit. He just morphed up off the ground, and it looked like Yoda. That's all I can say is he looked like Yoda. He had his hood over his head, he was little, he was smelly, and he was driving a brand new shiny bicycle. And so I poured water on him and said, here, drink this. And he sat up, and as he sat up, there's a knife laying on the ground underneath him. And I'm like, well, I've never encountered any of this before, but I can take this guy. I'm pretty sure I can take him. So I just kept on. I said, look, what are you doing here? And he says, well, I just laid down. He says, I broke my arm here a long time ago and my leg in a car wreck. He says, I just laid down here last night to take a nap, and I guess I didn't wake up this morning. And I looked at his bike, and there's no water, there's nothing. You know, he doesn't have a backpack or anything. He's got oversized clothes, and I said, well, you can't stay here. It's going to be 112 degrees today. I looked at him and said, come on, let's load your bike up. He got up. We loaded his bike in the back of my truck, and I turned around and drove him back down to Rip Griffin's. And I went in there and I gave Rick some money. Oh, I asked him what his name was. I tell everybody, I said, he got in the truck, and once we got him hydrated, it was kind of like a new movie, Driving Forrest Gump, because he started talking, and for the next 36 hours, he never got quiet. So we get down there, and we're driving there, and I said, what's your name? And he says, Rick Furch. You know, like church, only Furch with an F. And I said, okay, Rick. I said, so he said, I rode my bike up to Liberty, Kansas, and I'm on my way back. And I said, okay. And I gave the attendant at Rip Griffin's money. I said, look, keep him here all day long. It's going to be 112. He's going to die out there. And I said, when I get finished the horse show, I'll come back up and I'll take him home with me. Like, take him home with me. I wonder how Vic's going to react to that. So anyway, I go to the horse show, and I'm really thinking Rick's not going to be there when I get back. And there is his bike out in front of Rip Griffin's about 5 o'clock. And I go in, and I was like, I wonder where Rick is. And I go storming in there to run to the bathroom, and there's Rick, and he runs right over me coming out of the men's bathroom. And I was like, well, he's rehydrated. That's good. So I load him up, and we got in the truck, and we started down the road. And I said, Rick, what were you doing on the road to coming back from Liberal, Kansas? And he said, well, I've never been there before. And I said, well, Rick, this doesn't quite jive. This is a brand new bicycle. How can you ride a bike from San Angelo to Liberal, Kansas and back? And he says, when I got to Liberty, Kansas, he says, I didn't ride that bike up there. He says, I rode my bike up there, and it didn't have a seat, and it had a flat tire by the time I got there. So I needed a new bike. So I went to one of those churches, and it had a cross sticking up and some flames around it. And you know what? That minister took me and bought me a new bike at Walmart. You know, I said, Rick, what, have you been anywhere? Where's the longest trip you've ever taken? He said, I went to California. And I said, good grief, California and back? He says, well, I was pretty tired when I got to California. He said, so I got a ride. He says, I got a ride with a man and his wife and his 2 kids. He says, and that's where I got in the car wreck. That man was wanted for murder, and the highway patrol were chasing him, and we had a car wreck. And he says, and that's how I broke my arm and my leg, and I spent 5 days in the hospital. It's like, Rick, did you learn anything from that? And he says, yes, ma'am. He says, I'm never going to do that again. So I took him on home to Idalou, and I told Vic that he was coming, and told Stuart, and we got there. Rick gets out, and he goes in, and he goes to the barn, and he helps Stuart clean the stalls and push the wheelbarrow. He knew how to do that. And he comes in the house, and he takes a shower, and he cleans up, and we had no clothes for him, so I went in my closet. I was the only one little enough. I guess I'm Yoda-sized. And I got some jeans of mine and a shirt of mine and some tennis shoes of mine and put them on him, and Stuart's old belt, Stuart's old junior high underwear, and he was in new clothes. And every time I turned around after that, I was like, oh, there's Rick in mom clothes. I thought it was me, but it was Rick. But he spent the night with us, and he, after he got out of the shower, he folded his towel. The next morning, he made his bed. And Stuart's like, Mom, can we keep him? And you know, this story's a funny story, and I wonder why Diane asked me to tell it. Is it to brag that, you know, I stopped and picked up a dead body off the highway, or that Vic and Stuart and contributed? And I was thinking, you know, I don't really, that's not the point of the story. I think that maybe God put Rick on the road everywhere so that we can minister, that we have a chance to be blessed by Rick and maybe be a little redeemed by our situation. You know, a minister in Kansas, a highway patrolman in Perryton, Vic and Stuart and Susan and Idalou and the lady at Rip Griffin's. And I was like, we've all been a little redeemed by him. And at the end of the story, as I sat there and I wonder, I was hoping that maybe the murderer and his family was redeemed by this story too, that they were redeemed by ministering to Rick also. And I pray that he's on the road somewhere, or that he's in somebody else's body somewhere. You know, the little fetal alcohol man that I met on the highway is somewhere else, and that somebody else is getting that same opportunity that we had. But just remember, Rick Furch rhymes with church.